Howdy folks, my name is Tony.
I'm Brad.
We're Sound Advice. We're going to talk to you about drum miking. We're doing a series on that. Today is toms.
Toms, yes. Toms are good. I like toms.
I love toms.
What would you think, if you just said tom microphone, what comes in your mind just immediately?
The 421.
The Sennheiser 421.
Sennheiser 421, automatically.
I would have to agree. As an audio professional, I think that if you could pick any microphone, there's a lot of different styles of tom microphones out there. It's a lot, right? Condensers, dynamics. But I think the Sennheiser 421 is a dynamic microphone.
Yep.
Just sounds great.
It sounds
the reason that a lot of people don't use the Sennheiser 421 live is
space.
Space again.
Lots.
So we're talking about space again. We're trying to conserve space. Why are we using the Sennheiser, the 604?
Just the 604 is an iconic microphone. It's small, so it fits in a lot of places, but has a really big dynamic sound.
Right.
For tom.
And also, the 604s come with that little mounting clip. And so I personally own those microphones for myself. So when I'm doing a live show, I know that I'm going to bring those because I don't need a stand. They have a great cable tie on them. You can move them around. They're not going to mar a drum kit because sometimes you have claws and you don't want to mar anyone's hardware or anything on the drum.
Or change the tuning of somebody's drum.
Right.
Because when you start to, like an LP claw, which is what I love, if I don't have this mic, if I'm sticking a mic on it, the claw doesn't fit everywhere I want it to, so it becomes cumbersome. I try to go on to hardware versus the rim because I don't want to change the tuning. But there's a lot that goes into trying to fit that in the right place. It doesn't fit right. This microphone just clips right on. You put it wherever you slide it around the rim, and it works perfectly.
Yep.
So,
and I like it.
I love it.
All right, so there's different varieties of toms. There's high toms, there's mid toms, and there's low toms. And each one of those drums are going to have a different EQ pertaining to what frequencies you want to go through the PA, right? And you're going to show us where the placement of the drums. You're going to show us the EQ of high, mid, and low tom, and basically a good starting position on those Sennheiser mics, right?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
So this is the Sennheiser 604. It's a great microphone, very small. It's attached to this guy by this device, that clips on onto the rim. So this is a simple connection, just right here, boom, right over the top. There's 3 adjustments that you can make with this microphone to get it either closer to it, come on, or a little even closer. Depending on the thickness of the rim is where this is really going to play. This single spot here is going to work great. You want to make sure that roughly 2 fingers. I usually go 1 finger in between the space I just want that sound. I'm not looking for anything else. I'm going to plug my microphone into it, so I'll take this. My cable's big enough. One of the things you want to check out also is if you're the engineer, you want to make sure you're not impeding the drummer in any way.
Space.
Space is really important. So you want to make sure that if he's going to be hitting his crash, that it's not going to mess up the microphone, nor is it going to distract him from where he's hitting. So clearance in that space is important. But if you're the drummer, you have to also think about where you're going to put your mic. If you put your cymbals where you want them, well, where does the mic go? So you don't want it to be over here because now you've got this area and a loop of cable in front of you. Same thing on the opposite side. So you want to be aware that where you place your cymbals is really important to where the tom is going to wind up. Tuning your toms, as we've always mentioned, tuning your instrument is really important. I'll be able to get amazing sound out of this microphone.
The cool thing about these toms, if you notice, we have these studio rings, which really do help a lot with dampening the sound.
Yep. Love it. So we're going to move on, and we're going to show you, now that you know where to place it, we're going to show you what it looks like on EQ on the mixer. So now we're going to talk about the high tom. The high tom, it's a tighter, smaller, punchy, more punchy than the mid, more punchy than the low. So you're going to change volumes probably with that because it'll be a little closer to the snare. in volume, so you may not need as much volume out of it. So I brought the volume down a little bit. We got a lot different EQ curve for that one versus, let's hear what that high tom sounds like. You'll also notice in when he was hitting it in the high end, there was a lot of low end in that tom, and it's not supposed to be. So we're gonna kill that a little bit. Can you hit that one more time? So we're gonna crush a little bit of that. We're gonna put our EQ in. So you're gonna see I really sloped off my high pass now and dropped a little more of my 500 again to get some of that ring out. Can we hear that? And then without. One more time. You see how I cut all that muddiness out of that? So now you've got a nice little tom setup that's going to work really, really well for you for that. So here we've just clipped on the mid tom. I just want to make sure that you understand the space between. You'll have one here, have one there, and then you want to make sure that it's sitting in the correct position. Whether it's down or at this position, this is probably more a better position because you're grabbing that wave of where he's hitting. And so now we're going to talk about the EQ of this mid tom. So we're going to talk about the mid tom now. The mid tom is a little punchier tom, so it's going to have a different flavor. So we're going to see what that sounds like without the EQ. So you're going to hear a lot of wow in that. We want to contain that. So what we're going to do is we're going to engage our EQ and our high pass filter in this. And you'll notice my high pass filter, I rolled it up a little bit more towards 100 hertz. What I'm doing is I'm just taking that low end of mush out so it has its own distinct sound. And then I've got, again, a little more 500 came out of that, but I still kept my high the same, so I can keep the same crispness between all three. Can I hear what that sounds like, please? And we're going to do that without. I'm going to put that back in. So here's the 604 on the floor tom, and we're watching the clearance of the ride, the crash. We want to make sure that that is sitting in the correct position, not grabbing the tom itself. And we're going to talk about the EQ on that as well next. Can you hit that again 3 times for me, please, Brad? Okay, now we're going to do this with EQ on. With EQ off. With EQ on. So now, I just want to show you what we did. So we dropped, 500 is a really muddy frequency for drums. It's a muddy frequency for different instruments. So it's dipped out a little bit here. We high passed a little bit on the end for the floor tom, and we gave a little bump in around 3K to give it a little more attack on the top end. And that's what this EQ is stating for the floor tom. All right, yes, I'm ready. So folks, what we're going to do, we're going to start off looking at the channel. We're using the same channel. This is the overview that you saw with Brad. What I did was I opened up a little bit more of the input, and it all depends on the microphone, whether you're going to need to open that up or not. You'll find that out. We're in the EQ section. Some people have high, mid, low, and so your high would be the high section, and your mid would be in their section, and the low is here. In a 3-channel EQ, you have no control over what this is. So you're just going to have to play with it. But when you have a graph of this nature, we're going to take a look at how this works. So Brad, if you could go ahead and give us this open. You can, one more. You can hear what that sounds like. One of the things that's really cool about this Yamaha console is it gives me the ability to pull up this 604 from Sennheiser's and their drum patch, and I can recall that EQ, and then go back to my EQ right inside of here, and it's already pretty much given me the EQ that I would use. Let's hear what that sounds like. This is the floor tom, and this has a really good tone to it. So you just saw the toms, high, mid, low, different mic placements, and different EQs, patches that we used, or that I used for those. And then you're just gonna have to play with it. You can't be afraid of it. And then when you hear this kit, when we light it up, you're gonna get to hear what it sounds like with and without gates. And you'll find out you may want to either purchase gates or use gates if you have a digital console, because in a kit like this, I would have to. There'd be no way I could, unless I had a really open room, to be able to use this in a live. If they're in a tight club, this would drive me nuts. But it's a great sounding kit. It just needs a little more tuning to maybe make it perfect.
Yeah, I think it was great. I think those EQs were great. I think the placement's really important. Again, we want to reiterate space.
Yep.
Tom mics, you want to make sure they're not going to be hit by the drummer. But I think, again, this is a good foundation with that Sennheiser microphone to start you on a really good EQ.
Yep.
And I think good platform to jump off from.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, folks.
All right.